Gospel-shaped disciple making. Don Whitney was the one that we spoke to in particular that really, really emphasized this. And I think Whitney has a point. Remember this principle. It's a truism. Anything that is assumed will ultimately be lost. Anything that's assumed will ultimately or eventually be lost. When we assume that something is true or we assume that people believe something, we will ultimately lose it. I think the gospel is an evidence of assuming something to such a degree that we've almost lost it. I dare you to go back to your church. Some Sunday in the future, do just a quick survey. Hand out a note card to everybody in attendance on a Sunday morning or everybody in a Sunday school class and ask them in 2 or 3 sentences to describe the gospel, which is the core of our faith. If you don't understand the gospel, you can't be in the faith. Ask your people to describe the gospel and see if there's any sort of consistency in response. I have a feeling you're going to find that there's very little consistency in their response. The one thing, the foundational core of our church's existence, of our faith as believers in Jesus, has been assumed to such a degree that we've lost it. Don Whitney said this. He said, if I were pastoring again, I would want to make sure that every person in my church was clear on the gospel. This is what distinguishes us from the world, the message of Christ and the gospel. So we need to recover a commitment to the gospel and sort of bringing everything back to the gospel when it comes to our discipleship models. And I know that gospel-centered language has sort of become catchy and popular, particularly among the Reformed crowd. That's not at all what I'm describing here. I'm describing here a basic, elementary understanding of the gospel that is common and consistent among the entire body and helping the body to understand how everything flows from that common and consistent understanding of the gospel. So, very elementary but simple commitment back to the gospel.